I'm Joaquin Alvarado. I'm the CEO at the Center for Investigative Reporting. We're a 40-year-old nonprofit, always been in the Bay Area. And in our history, we've done hundreds of investigations. We have done over 25-ish frontline documentaries. We've worked with Univision. We've worked a lot with Google. We've been funded by the Knight Foundation. We've worked with many, many dozens, hundreds of partners actually in our history. But we really believe strongly in the power of not only collaboration, but risk-taking. And so I'm going to give you a little overview of that. Are there any journalists here from Denmark? No, okay. So I did a version of this in Denmark in the fall. So if it's a repeat for anyone, forgive me. But what's our values and what's our vision? Like I said, a 40-year commitment to investigative reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and holding ourselves to the highest possible standards. We believe strongly that there is a creative opportunity in front of us, much like has happened in the television world or the podcasting world. Now is a golden age for storytelling, and we believe that we as a field, as journalists, have a lot to offer this revolution, and we need to participate actively in it. We have always maintained a very, very deep partner network, and we are digging down further into the mantle of the earth to go even deeper with our partners and really try to share as many resources as possible. I also believe very strongly that if you are in the United States, of course, but around the world, we need to diversify who is doing this work. So, I'll speak maybe on behalf of this panel. There needs to be women on this panel the next year out. There are many women who lead organizations who should be represented here. Our editor-in-chief is Amy Pyle. Our head of studio is Krista Scharfenberg. Our executive producer for video is Amanda Pike. Our executive editor for our radio show is Suzanne Reber. So we have done, I think, a fair job of promoting women, but as an industry, we've sucked at it. That would be innovative, is to fix that. And then also to diversify, and forgive my little typo there, grammatical error, we need to diversify who's consuming it. So we need to move beyond the traditional audience, which is narrow for investigative reporting, certainly, and we need to bring different kinds of communities to this work. So how can we do that? So we believe in physiology. We believe in the human body. You can listen to our work. You can watch it. You can read it. You can also participate. And we've tried to advance platforms and practices that help us address each one of those. We have a radio show that we launched, which now is on 262 public radio stations across the United States. We are also, it's a podcast. It's the first weekly hour of investigative reporting on American radio. And we've also had 45 partners contribute stories to the show. And we hope to be over 300 stations. So we're building slowly, but we're probably over 1 million a week that are now hearing the show on a regular basis. We have traditionally taken our investigations and looked for other platforms to put them on. We did a lot of work on solitary confinement for youth in American prisons, and as part of our release of this, it was a news hour piece, it was a radio piece, it was a long-form investigative reporting piece, and it was also a comic book that we published and gave out at every event and distributed to schools and just found other ways to get the work out there. Like I said, it was a long text piece. It was a radio piece. We also did an animated film that we put up on our YouTube channel, but also went into festivals with. And every touch point that we create out of these multi-platform productions is a chance to engage different kinds of audiences, and we're very aggressive about doing that. We launched a project with Youth Speaks 3 years ago, which is focused on young poets coming into our newsroom investigations and learning from the reporters, also contributing in their own way. And then they produce original poetry out of this. And as you can see, I should put a link to the solitary poem later for this. But if you just search off page on our site, you'll see what we've done. We've done about 6 of these. And it's allowed us to, again, go work in communities that are impacted by a lot of the stories that we're doing, but to create new kinds of content for audiences that traditionally is not associated with investigative reporting. We did a lot of work on seismic safety about 6 or 7 years ago in the state of California and at public schools. As an earthquake state, we have to worry about that. We asked ourselves in a meeting, who's most affected by schools that are not seismically ready for a big earthquake? And of course, it's kids. And when we talked to teachers in those public schools that we were investigating, they don't have any resources anymore. So they don't even have when I was a kid in California schools, we did trainings, we had posters, we had take-home manuals, we had emergency kits in the classroom in case there was a big earthquake. All of that had been sort of dissipated because of budget cuts. So we ended up doing a coloring book for kids that we distributed through public schools. We thought we would maybe be able to give out 5,000 of these. And in the first few days, they were already gone. Schools kept calling. We eventually published it in 5 different languages and distributed. I think we're up to almost 200,000 of these have gone out to public school kids around the state of California. And we kind of we just publish more every school year and give them away. Inside is some of the key information about how to be safe in case of an earthquake. And we also put up a site that kids could do, sort of color it online. We've done a lot on surveillance and the law and the rules and how that can be sort of permeable and what are the impacts on communities, who's being surveilled, what are the checks and balances. In order to engage communities on that, we did a big art project called Eyes on Oakland, where we retrofitted a lowrider van with a mobile production stage and silk screening kit. And we went throughout the city of Oakland, we went to different communities to talk to them about our findings in terms of what the surveillance was like in the city, asked them what their reaction to it was. We recorded stories about it, and then we also did silk screens. And then in the Oakland Museum of California, we put up a big exhibition where you could explore the map of how different parts of the city of Oakland had different kinds of relationships to both the police and surveillance and different attitudes about it. We've done a lot just again in the animation space. We've been investigating the Jehovah's Witnesses and a history that they have of not being transparent about child molesters in their ranks. We did an animated explainer for that as well. And as part of that, we always ask ourselves, if you are not starting by reading a 4,000-word investigation, what is a fast way to bring you into the story? Because a lot of our assumptions are that, well, if it's good enough, people are going to read it. We think that there are many entry points. This next project is Storyworks, which is now 3 years old. We've done 8 of these. These are theatrical interpretations of our investigations. So about once every 3 or 4 months, we'll commission a playwright to write a 1-act play based on our investigative work, and then we stage it in front of a live audience. At the end of the show, we bring the reporter and the editor and the playwrights and the actors up, and they answer questions from the audience. So it's always an opportunity to do updates to our reporting, but it's also a very creative way to engage community members who, again, would not normally come and either read our work or watch it. This is a way to introduce them to it, and we recently scaled it and have worked with in Kansas City and worked on an investigation there that's sort of one of these long 20-year stories that's really had a deep impact in the community. Next up is New Jersey, then DC, then New York for Storyworks, and then a Bay Area production in the late fall. One time we took the youth poets that we work with and combined it with the Storyworks model and actually did a 1-act play that ran for about 6 weeks on public housing conditions in the city of Richmond, which has one of the more deplorable public housing infrastructures and an incredible amount of corruption. And at the play, we also invited, and we always bring subjects who are impacted by the work. So during the talkback, we had the reporter, we had the young playwrights, we had the actors, we had the editor, and we had folks who live in the public housing buildings that we had been reporting on. And they were able to tell their stories directly and answer questions about what the conditions were really like to live with and what they had tried to do in terms of getting some accountability out of the agency. 3 years ago or whatever, our board chair, Phil Bronstein, wrote this story for Esquire. And again, I don't know, you're from all over the world and we'd love to work with everybody. One of the cheap ways to actually engage a lot of folks is to hire animators. So we've had about 10 years of doing that. We did an animation based on Phil's story, which is one of our more popular online videos. We also have taken our data visualization work and we did a visualization of all the weed that's seized on the US-Mexico border. And if it were a solid brick, how big would it be? If it were, if you built a wall along the US-Mexico border, maybe share this with Trump, out of joints, How tall would the wall be? Well, it turns out you could build, I think, an 8-foot wall of the entire length of the US-Mexico border out of the weed that was seized there 3 years ago. So that's all your weed now belongs to us, is one of our videos online. We won the first national Emmy for anything posted on YouTube, I think 4 years ago, for a series, a video that was part of a series that looked at state disability hospitals and incredible abuses that were occurring within the resident population. And one of the stories, it was a grandmother who had adopted her grandchild, who was born to her daughter who was severely autistic and lived in a state disability hospital and had been raped by one of the orderlies. And the grandmother wanted to tell her story, but she didn't want to use her image or her grandson's image. So we animated that piece, and it won a national Emmy. We beat Snowfall that year. And then one of our reporters has covered the pot industry for a long time, and he did a funny sort of first-person narrative about one time he was at one of these events and didn't realize that he was eating the wrong kind of brownie. So that's, again, you get to have a little fun sometimes. That's my presentation for now. Thank you.